It's finally happened. There's finally something I'm happy with when it comes to an emergency survival shelter. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video and this awesome new product, I want to give an explanation as to why I feel the way I do about this particular topic. I've been a part of this community and traveling and going to all kinds of events for many years now. I've met all kinds of amazing outdoorsmen, instructors, and what I would consider, if we were going to call someone an expert, the experts of our time. With that said, I've noticed a common thing that I myself have been guilty of over and over and over again, and it's something so simple and overlooked, it's borderline crazy. So hear me out. We all enjoy either going out for the day, doing camping trips, overnights, whatever. But the thing that I see that's the most common when it comes to just an overall kit and what somebody carries is it always appears that shelter is the lacking aspect of it. And what I mean by that is, if I'm going to go and do an overnight, let's say I'm staying in the woods tonight, I'm packing around my shelter and sleeping comfortably. That's just the way that I roll. 75%, 80% even of the weight of my pack is warmth and comfort, because I can get away with only bringing one knife, heaven forbid, I know, but it's very important to stay warm and dry and to have something to stay warm and dry under. But where I fail a lot of times is where I go out for the day, especially if I know that I'm within walking distance or, a day's walk of getting out of there, like being able to get to my vehicle or the closest house or whatever it may be. So I oftentimes negate a form of shelter in my pack to fit other stuff that are comfort items. That's typically the only time I do that. And the reason for that is crazy, but there's so many things that I've tried over the years that are either just cumbersome, they take up too much room, they're heavy, they're kind of inconvenient. So if I know it might be wet or a little bit rainy, then I consider my shelter my clothing, which is a good idea. That's kind of the thing that you're taught. Your first layer of defense is your clothing. But other than that, I will straight up leave a tarp or an emergency blanket or whatever it may be at home, because I'm like, well, I can just walk in the rain. I can suck it up. Or heaven forbid, I can just sit underneath the tree with my rain jacket on until it lightens up, and then I can walk out. It's such a bad habit or mindset, honestly, to have, because we've all read the articles. We all know it happens when you don't expect it. So even though I'm out here on public land, I know exactly the way to get out, and it's within, a 45-minute at most. If something really bad did happen, it would suck. I could call somebody, and it would take a while, or try to explain where I am, but it would suck. So that's what this video is about. There's finally something out there that you can purchase that I feel like solves that problem. And I know it's not just me. The reason why I mentioned I've traveled and been to events and whatever, I've seen it over and over again, even in classes that I've been a part of, that I've either taught or that I've been a part of as a student. But before I go any further rambling, my buddy Dan Wowick already has talked about this. His opinion's pretty much the same as mine. He's seen the same thing in his classes. He runs way more classes throughout the year than what I'm a part of, but it's definitely a common thing, and I really feel like this is a good solution to it. So what I've done is I've packed my pack full for the first time ever of emergency shelter options, because over the years I've spent money on stuff that if I would have known or had something like this, I would have never spent money on it. Now, I've used these things for other options and, multi-purpose things, but I've just been disappointed with all of them. So, the very first thing that I got was this SOL blanket, all right? And as you can see, the grommets rip out. It's super hard to pack down small. I've got burn holes in it, you name it. I really use this a lot. I transitioned it to being a ground cloth, ground sheet, and for that it works good, but it's so loud, it's a pain in the butt. So, scratch that. Not happy with it. It works. It's better than nothing. You should have this with you, but it's not what I would design if I could have it. Another option from SOL is the survival blanket. Now, since I bought this many years ago, there's now all kinds of different ones, bigger ones, bivvies, whatnot. Again, it's better than nothing. The footprint, super small, doesn't weigh anything, but good luck packing this back into this. And again, it's stupid loud, crinkly. It's like sleeping with tinfoil. Not a fan of it. Then we come to most popular item for this kind of stuff, the grabber space blanket. The first one I got was red, and it has a big rip in it, but it worked, and I took many classes using it, slept underneath it, etc. This is the one that currently I have. A solution I found is using shock cord on the grommets. That'll help out a lot. But again, that's the footprint. You can take your paracord and wrap it up super tight, but again, that's about, I don't know, maybe you could fold it in half. It's still pretty bulky. It's not what I would want. And on top of that, all three of these so far, you have to have some kind of paracord or cordage with you because you got to tie it down. Then we get to the poncho. So there are a couple of options when it comes to ponchos / survival shelters that I've been very tempted to purchase. I just haven't ever pulled the trigger. And the biggest thing is when it comes to the waterproofing. I'll go over that in a second, but this is just a regular old poncho. And after trying a few of them, my favorite one that I've come to use is the one by Snug Pack. The Patrol Poncho, I think is what it's called. It's got a cool front pocket here. It's actually got sleeves, and it works. Again, I'm sitting underneath the tree, sucking it up until the rain stops, or I'm walking out. But what if something worse has happened? Also, I can't set this up as a tarp, so that kind of defeats the purpose. So the size of this is very nice. It's lightweight. It'll work. The other options that I've seen are the ones by Bushcraft Outfitters. They're meshed poncho or meshed shelters. I've been so close to pulling the trigger on those and just putting them in my pack and having that be the answer to this problem that I see multiple people, including myself, deal with. The biggest thing that's kept me from doing that is they aren't seam taped. Those tarps don't come seam taped, and I've personally had a bad experience with the tarps from Bushcraft Outfitters in the past. Now, it's not bashing them. I reached out to them. They did send me a replacement. Everything was great. But it just kind of, I don't know. It's one of those weird things that once it's happened, you think it's going to happen again. And if it's not seam taped and there's an actual seam on that tarp or around the hood or whatnot, I don't want to have to go through the hassle of setting it up and putting the seam sealer on it, letting it dry and all that, when there's multiple options out there that already come seam taped and they're either cheaper or the same price. So then we end up with the actual tarp. More times than not, I will just carry a tarp with me because it's seam taped, waterproofed completely. There's tie outs. I'm gonna have to carry cordage for all those other ones anyways. It's really not that big when you go to compress it. This is a 10 by 10, by the way, and it just works. I know that it's something to take care of me should the need arise that I'm gonna have to stay an uncomfortable night camping in the woods. but it's big and it weighs, and you have to have this other stuff. You have to make steaks or bring steaks with you. So it's just frustrating. And into the room walks the T60 Survival Shelter from Coalcracker Bushcraft. I want to be up front with you. I'm buddies with Dan. I spent time in the woods with them, camp with them. I talk with them on a pretty regular basis. And he reached out when this was in the works of being printed, finalized, whatever, and wanted to know if I would want to run it for a little while, test it, give my feedback on it, and he'd send it out to me. So I did not pay for this. And I'll tell you right off the bat, last I checked, it's $75. I know a lot of you right now are thinking, $75 for an emergency survival shelter. Why? If I were not sent this to Dan, I would guarantee you, especially with Christmas being around the corner, if I got any kind of gift card or whatever, I would spend my money on it. 100%, I would buy this. My reasoning for that is because I really, truly feel that it fits a niche, an empty void that we've had in our packs with our gear to take care of multiple things at one time. And it's crazy that it took this long for someone to do it. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy that it's finally here. So with that out of the way, I didn't pay for it. I told you the price, and I guarantee you I'd be buying this if Dan did not send me one so graciously. So the T60 Survival Shelter is this big. I wear about a large glove. It can go down to, get the air out of it. It can go down to in my fist. Easy. All right. With this, all you need is 2 steaks. So 2 lightweight steaks. You could even go crazy, get titanium ones, or carve them off the land. And that's it. The cordage is already built into here. It's completely waterproof. I ran this thing underneath the sink at home when I first got it out of the box. Literally under the sink, just letting water run on it, pulling up. It held water for, I don't know, I think it was like 3 hours that I just sat there and let it. It's awesome. And it weighs nothing. Like, it's literally less than a roll of paper towels. A paper towel roll is 12 ounces. This is 6. Again, Dan now has 2 videos up on this new survival shelter from him. One of them was just kind of like the intro to it, showing you, what it can do. And he then went back and did a long, extensive video pretty much expressing the same things that I have about his feelings about survival shelters, and that he wasn't happy and he saw people lacking in that department, and then going over all the questions and answers that people had so far, addressing whether it was strong and it was durable. It's awesome. I'll link it in the description below, but in his video he shows you the exact same piece of material that this is made out of. I think it's some kind of xenon or some kind of spaceship alien stuff, and he had a piece of that strung up for I think over a year. It was ripped and tattered. It still was waterproof, and even after all that, it was still more than enough to be used as a survival shelter to keep you dry and out of the elements if you need it. Extreme torture testing, but it makes the point. When you first get this out of the box, you'll notice that he's got it set up to where the cordage is kind of hanging out outside of the little pouch. That's a really nifty way to pack it back down to where you have one end already ready to go and you can quickly deploy it. You'll see that this is just a pocket that's built into the tarp itself. So everything just kind of folds back into itself. And on 2 corners of it is this really super lightweight, grippy cordage, which I was surprised to see that with it being such thin diameter that it was as grippy as what it does. So it does bind really well on itself. So you're used to like your trucker's hitches or any kind of slippery hitches. They still bind and they pop out really easy, unlike some of the other lightweight Dyneema stuff that you'll see. You have to tie certain knots for it to bind because it's a slicker cordage. The way that Dan shows that you can set this up, that he originally designed this for, is foolproof. If a person can tie their shoes, they can set this shelter up. It's literally made for anybody. So since each corner of this survival shelter already has cordage on it, and it's 2 pieces of cordage, all you have to do is tie a shoelace knot around 2 trees and then stake out the 2 corner tabs with your stakes. You can see you can also set this up in a plow point configuration, which is my favorite, just by simply taking one of the ends with the cordage attached to it, tying a quick release knot in it, and then now you have a third tie out that you can put your stake into, and then you can get the configuration that you might want to enjoy more, such as the plow point. So that's the T60 Survival Shelter from Coalcracker Bushcraft. If you can't tell, I'm a big fan of it. I think it really does fit a need and a role that we have, and it's an awesome option to carry instead of all those other things that I showed you before. Any of these things I showed you are better than not having anything at all. Please carry something with you in case something does happen. You have some kind of shelter. I was just sharing over the years the experiences I've had with all the different ones. They all work. They're all going to do what we don't want to happen, which is an uncomfortable night in the woods, but you're alive. I just think what they've done at Coalcracker Bushcraft with the T60 Survival Shelter has finally filled a personal void and a role that I wanted in my kit, of something that's completely waterproof, lightweight, really packable, already has cordage involved, and is multi-use. I can use it over and over and over again. It's durable, it's not going to rip, and it's not noisy. It doesn't sound like I'm sleeping on top of a bag of potato chips. With that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will leave links in the description below as to where you can find it. And remember, get outside and enjoy the woods. Also, Merry Christmas.